What's up guys, welcome back. Today I have another video for you guys and we're going to be going over candle profiling. Now this is something that's really simple, right, but extremely important, and this acts as a filter for price action, right? So a lot of you guys have been asking me, how do you avoid low probability days? This is just one of the filters. This is really the first thing I look at when I come to the charts, is the candle profile. Now, what we must understand is that candle profiles really has two key components, and they both need to be aligned. So the first component is wick size. So wick size tells us how far the candle is likely to expand, because if you go back into the market and look at any candle, expansion candle, you're going to see they all have the same thing in common, and that is a small wick, a small opposing run from the opening price, right? This allows the candle to have that large body, right? Small wick, large body. Less time in the manipulation phase of the candle or the protraction phase forming the wick, more time for it to expand, right? So this is the first filter in price. We're looking at wick size, right? This tells us how far it is going to expand, right? What if we have a large opposing run from the open? Well, this is something we typically want to avoid because it's not going to reverse and expand in the same candle. It's just going to reverse, right? It's not going to expand past this opening price that we see here, right? Because the wick size doesn't allow it. So large wick, small body, typically. This is where we, have the reversal in the form of a candle 2 closure, and then we look to trade candle 3 expansion, right? So we would look for this to be a candle 3, and this would be like candle 2, for example, right? Now I do trade this, and I will show you guys how to trade it, but it is specifically on the higher time frame, right? So this will be a kind of like a daily profile, you could say. Daily profiles and candle profiles are like two different things in my opinion, though. Daily profiles, not so much, not too important to me. This is what's actually important, in my opinion, because, for example, I can't have a London reversal if it looks like this, for example. If I want a London reversal, I want it to have a small wick, right? So I can expect a New York continuation, because that's what a London reversal is. It's a London reversal, New York continuation. You can't really expect a New York continuation if the wick size looks like this, for example. So all daily profile tells you is when the low of day is formed, like what time. If it's an Asia, high of day, then you can expect the previous sessions or the next sessions to expand. If none of the previous sessions reversed, then it has to be a New York reversal. That's all that tells you. Nothing spectacular. This tells you, like I said, how far the candle will expand, but also how it will close. And this is where this comes in. Like, how do we know how the candle is going to form or close? This is where this comes in, this is the actual candle profile itself, or the protraction phase. Like, how is that candle forming? This is what's actually really important. So typically, for a bullish expansion candle, we want it to open low first, right? When it opens low first, this is what allows it to use as little time in the expansion phase, right, to form the wick to expand, right? Or sorry, little time in the manipulation phase, so it can have as much time to expand, right? It's like a fluid motion. Open, low, high, close. We've all heard this a million times, right? But we really want these candles to form this way. In the best expansion days, it forms exactly like this. And there's a reason why we want it to open low as well. And this is something we're going to go over in another video. So I don't know if I already mentioned this, but this video itself is just going to be over the candle profile concept alone. And then it's going to be a video series I'm probably going to do. I'm going to cover multiple concepts, and then we're going to put it all together, right? Because we don't just use candle profiles alone, although it's a very good filter for price when we apply it to other concepts and intertwine them and stuff like that, but it gets very good, right? But anyways, this is the positive condition is when it opens low first, right? Applied on all time frames, by the way, but I'm really specifically talking about the daily candle or higher time frame candle. Now, a negative condition is when the candle, if you're going to be bullish, if it opens high first. We don't want to see this. We don't want to see this, right? Especially if it opens high into something relevant and like manipulates it. That's a really negative condition, right? This is where it will typically, maybe this is the low of a reversal, right? But it's not going to expand. It's not going to give that expansion because of the way it forms, right? It opens high first, using a lot of the time to manipulate, basically to manipulate, right? Because it opened high and then has to open low. Look how much time that is, right? It's like half of the candle in the manipulation phase. It doesn't have enough time. It simply does not have enough time in range to expand in the same candle, right? So this is a negative condition. We do not want to see this. Even if it has a small wick, right? See the small wick? It's not going to expand because of the candle profile, the way it is forming, right? This is arguably more important than the wick size. It actually isn't more important. It's the way the candle forms, in my opinion. Now we're going to be talking about what I don't consider as an open high or an open low. And this is when we just consolidate, right? If we just consolidate, it's a non-open high or an open low. What I deem as the first open high or open low is the first side that gets manipulated. So if we manipulate the low first, I'm viewing this as an open low, right? If we manipulate the high first, I'm viewing it as an open high, right? So a lot of people will think that just because the candle opened high first, this is automatically bearish day. No. If it can do this, it can range, it can even open high first and then open low and then expand. As long as this little open high or whatever doesn't trade into anything relevant, it doesn't matter, right? That's fine. As long as, if it opens high first a little bit and then we open low, as long as this open high was formed super early on the candle, it generally doesn't matter, right? So I just wanted to throw this in there because I know some people get confused with that. The candle is not just going to open low directly. Like sometimes it does that and that's great, but sometimes it's going to open high a little bit. That's fine, right? Now we're going to be talking about a candle to reversal into expansion candle. So what we just talked about was just an expansion candle, like these previous candles are just expansion candles. This is a reversal candle, but it's very distinctive where it has a small wick, which allows it to also expand, right? So just like an expansion candle, we want it to open low first. And if it has this small wick, then it can reverse but also expand, okay? So it's still an expansion candle at the same time. It's also a reversal candle. It's like the same, it's like 2 in 1. It's 2 phases in one because it's manipulation, but it's also expansion. And yeah, the way the candle profile forms allows it to expand as well as the wick size, right? Those are two different things, right? Because they've opened high first and then open low, not ideally what we want to see. Now, how can we even anticipate a reversal into expansion candle? Is when candle 1 hits a key level but doesn't reverse. So then we look to candle 1's low as a reversal point. Also, maybe there's SMT down here. You can also assume that. But this is another topic for another video on swing formations, which we will go over in another video. Now this is a reversal candle, right? So what's the difference between these two candles, right? It's really nothing. They're both reversal candles, but the wick size is simply, it just tells us how far it's going to expand. So I know that this candle can expand past some relevant highs or whatnot and past the opening price, but I know this reversal candle will not likely expand much past the open, right? It's very hard to anticipate it because of this large wick. We know it's going to close with a small body, which it can close back within, below the daily open. It can close a little bit past the open. We don't really know. So what this candle has to form like is it has to open low first. This absolutely has to happen, right? And I can trade this candle, by the way, on the daily time frame specifically, and the weekly time frame, for example, the weekly candle or the daily candle. But yeah, it has to open low as well, right? The reason why is because when it opens low first, it's a fluid motion, right? That's one thing, but it's also going to leave behind session highs as like low resistance liquidity, right? So it's more likely to expand towards it, right? Whereas if it opens high first and it opens low, what is that? It's just seek and destroy if it does that, which we don't. That's literally consolidation. But you can have some sort of intraday expansion even with this large wick. We just adjust our targets, right, back to the daily open or maybe a little bit past it. It's even better if you just target within the daily range, right, as a low resistance targets. You can absolutely trade this, and I do that all the time. But on a day like this, where it's a reversal to expansion, we can target beyond the daily open, right, because of the wick size. So that's the difference. Now, this is a negative condition, right? This is a positive condition for a reversal candle where it opens low. If I want to be bullish and it opens high first and then it opens low, I will not trade this candle. That's a negative condition because this is seek and destroy, right? It opens high, then it opens low. That's already too much time. It's not the way we want. We want that fluid motion. I don't want to be trading back to high resistance, right? I want to be trading back to low resistance like this, right? So this is a seek and destroy day. Typically what we want to avoid, right? So that's it. Very simple. Now let's go into some real chart examples. So this is a trade that I took, I believe last week or pretty recently, on a Tuesday. So how does this weekly candle start to form? Well, as we see, Monday's candle, just inside bars, right? Whoops. You're going to see wide inside bars because of how it forms. So as you see, just inside bars, right? So how does the weekly candle forming so far? It's just consolidating. So again, it's not an open high, it's not an open low. The first manipulation is what we deem as the open low. So this weekly candle is doing what? It's opening low first because it's manipulating this low, right? If I go to lower time frame, this is a relevant low. You're going to see it on the 1 hour chart because we need to go to the 1 hour chart. So basically, what do we have to target? All of these failure swings, right? So when you want to trade to a target, you want to be trading away from a protected swing, which is what I went over in my driver video just a little bit. This is a future topic for another video, but if you look at how Monday's range formed, let's mark out the weekly open. This is Monday's open. It opens high and then it opens low, right? So what does that mean? That this is not a day that we want to be trading because we don't want to short it. It opens high. We don't want to short it. Why? Because we don't want to trade away from failure swings. But we also don't want to long it because this is not how we want to see expansion days form, right? We want to see it open low first if I want to see a Monday expansion. So you're going to see there's an SMT that forms here. But this is irrelevant, right? Why? Because the candle profile, it doesn't support expansion day, so you're not going to get expansion, right? So this is where pattern trading comes in. We need multiple things to align. So this is a day that would be consolidation, right? So we mark out Monday's low as a potential reversal point for the weekly range. So if Monday consolidates, Tuesday manipulates, and let me get an SMT here. I'll pull up this this here for you guys. What the hell's going on? All right. So as you see, we create this SMT divergence here. All right, this is what I traded. So we know that the weekly range is opening low first, but is the current day opening low first? Let's mark it out. It is, right? So this is what supports a reversal into expansion day. Right, look at this small wick on the daily time frame. Right, small wick, which allows a large body, which allows me to anticipate that this day could actually expand to these farther targets away from the daily open. You know what I'm saying? Because of the small wick and the way it forms. So these are two different things, right? And this is my trade that I took. I took it in London session. I rarely ever trade London, but I was awake. Had some alerts because I wanted to see this after the close, and yeah, I took this here, right? Uploaded that to X or Insta, whatever you want to go look at it. This is really the trade that I took, and I think I TP'd here. I should have held it to here, but I took it to here, which is fine, obviously. But yeah, I took it there, about 4.7 hour trade, and that's the first example of a reversal into expansion candle, candle 2, right? So let's move on. All right, here we are on let's look at the daily chart. This is a reversal day, right? Because we have this large wick on the daily chart. And let's go over a little bit of logic here. So this is something I haven't really taught you guys. This is when an SMT fails, as you see here. This SMT here, as we see, at one point there was an SMT here, right? But if gold, something that I did go over you guys, if the asset that sweeps out does not manipulate, then what does that mean? That silver is probably going to catch up to this low. Now, when silver catches up to this low, this is when you're going to see a potential reaction in reversal on this asset. So I'll even show you this here on the example I just showed you in a minute. It sucks that I just closed the tab, but it's all good. So what you're going to see is as soon as we hit this low on silver, right, this is obviously a potential reversal point because it's a relevant low. There's nothing beyond this low. It's a relevant low. But what do you need if silver is going to expand? Then what do you need gold to do? You need it to switch strength, right? Ideally. So this is where that concept comes in that I've taught you guys. That obviously gold was the weaker asset. We did not manipulate this low. But as soon as silver trades into that low, is when we get this switching of strength. So here you go. You have this higher high, right, where it momentarily switches to stronger asset, which allows all the assets to expand in the same direction because that's what we need for markets to truly reverse. Right, so that's what we see here. And this is what I took personally. So this is London session, which I do not trade, but obviously it's a very good day. Now look how large this wick size is though. Very large. So what does that mean? That this candle needs to do what? It needs to open low first. So here's the daily open. And this is what I mean by the candle doesn't have to just open low first, like directly. See how it opens high first for a couple hours in Asia session? That's fine because we didn't do anything, right? It's just consolidating. All right, so that's fine, right? This is the real open low, right? As you see, we open low. We get that SMT, that strength switch, which is the trigger for this. If you guys trade London session, beautiful trades here. You have a candle 2, candle 3, blah, blah, blah. But I traded here. Right, so you have a T-Trades ideal swing formation right here. If I go to the 4-hour candle profile, or sorry, if I go to the 4-hour, just profile on the 4-hour chart here, we have a 2 a.m. London reversal, so expecting 6 a.m. to expand. What do we also notice about this 4-hour candle, right? It's a reversal candle, but it has a small wick, which allows it to do what? Expand, right? So I want to trade a candle 3, I want to have a small wick as well. So at the time when I'm entering this trade, let's mark out this 6 a.m. open. What does it support? Expansion, right? So I'm already aligned with expansion. Okay. So I'm just realigning myself with expansion because at this time, the 30-minute here is not aligned with expansion. Obviously, it's a bearish candle, right? But it's just a retracement. So when I get a candle 2 closure, I'm realigned with expansion. Does that make sense? So what can we target though? Is objectives a little bit past the daily open, because we know that we just don't know how far price is going to expand past the daily open. But like I said, if the candle profile forms this way, even on a large wick, it can provide an intraday expansion, right? In the form of low resistance, because if it opens low, that's what's leaving behind. And it's always great when you have low resistance that's printed from the previous day as well. So yeah, this is my trade here. I already remember it was like, yeah, right here, exactly. Sorry for all these messy drawings, but here's your initial reversal. We had that 30-minute CSD as well. That's great to see. But this is what I took personally to get to here. Right, so about a very good trade. Now I want to show you guys briefly that one trade that we just went over. So this one, I wanted to show you guys the 4-hour candle profile, but also a little bit of this SMT stuff. So as you see, we have an Asia reversal, but this is just a London reversal technically, because this is a divergence here. So it's still a London reversal. See the small wick, which allows me to expand, right? The daily allows me to expand. So this is where GxT comes in. But as you see here, right? What do we notice about here though, guys? This Monday's low that I marked out. So let's look at the time. 2200 on Sunday. Let's mark the same low out over here. 2200 on Sunday. Do you see how we did not manipulate it on this asset? But there was an SMT here, right? But why isn't it going to reverse? Because the candle profile. So if this asset's not going to reverse here, then what does that mean? That gold is probably going to take the same low out. But it's silver is not going to reverse until gold reverses. You see that? So that's a little bit about quarterly assets and reversals, but that's maybe another video for another time. And that's why I had this low marked out and was watching this. But anyways, let's move on. So this is this week actually on indices. So let's talk about it. Let's mark out the range here. Premium discount of this range. We have this order block or fair value gap here. And what do we form within this range is a two-stage SMT. Inside of a range, so this is the trigger for expansion, right? We talked about this being a form of reversal, right? It's a strength switching. This is why the two stages have to form this way, because this is a form of strength switching, right? You're going to see that Friday on YM had not been taken out. So it looks like this. This is why I longed Friday, posted that on X. And then we get this two-stage SMT that you're seeing here, right? Which validates Monday and Tuesday to expand, but also just validates this being a valid model to trade. Right? And we're also going to go over this next day as well. But I just want to show you briefly, within that candle 2 closure that you're seeing, within this candle 2, what do we see? What kind of a signature do we see? Expansion, mouth expansion, right? And the next day, obviously that's a reversal signature. So this next day we want to see what? We want to see an open low high close, right? We want to see bullish candle. So an open high low close, a small wick would validate that as a bullish day, right? So if you look at the daily open here, it directly opens low. This is great. So it gaps lower a little bit, fills in the gap, and then it opens low. This is not when you put the two-stage SMT, we put it in here. But I don't need to see this SMT necessarily to trade this. I took this at 9:30 to get to this high, actually. Right, if I go to the 30-minute time frame, you're going to see. Let's talk about a little bit about my driver video. So if you have assumed low of day put in prior to the driver, then what should the driver do? If we haven't yet reached any draw liquidity, we should just expand, right? Because if I show you prior to driver, what phase are we in within the profile? We're in the protraction phase of the daily candle, right? So as you see, we haven't yet printed the body of the candle prior to the driver. We haven't yet hit anything. So what can we expect the driver to do? Be a one-sided expansion, right? We also put in this SMT prior to driver as well. So that's why I longed prior to get to these highs. I also know this is the low of day because I'm seeing expansion signatures. I'm seeing opposing candle support price, which is a expansion signature, right? So we expand away from the low of day. So that's why I know the low of the day is put in here. And then you see price expand into this relevant high, create an SMT, and then price expands and creates this SMT. So that's all price does. It moves from SMT to SMT. And that's what we saw here. So I was not interested in this move here, though. In this move, whatever this was that I marked out, what I'm talking about here. I wasn't interested in from here to here, right? Just because this is when you can really take a lot of losses. This is in my course. I talk about how I always want to be entering ideally before we hit draws on liquidity. Because again, this is where we get new phase of the price. It's where you get caught up a lot of times. So this is something that I'm gonna show you guys in another video. But anyways, with this closure, with that two-stage SMT that was printed, within the day, and I'm seeing a valid candle 3 closure, so I'm expecting a candle 4. So something like this, right? Open, low, high close. That's how I want to see. So if we play price as well, let's mark out the daily opens here. Let's remove this as well. We're seeing an open low, London reversal. Why would I not want to trade London here? Because of that large wick size, so I would want to trade this 6 a.m. candle, right? Because this is a reversal candle. I want to trade expansion candle. So we see this small wick here that allows us to expand, so that's why I also traded this as well. So you're seeing how this is fractal, right? But now we're doing the same thing over here. Daily open. So as you see, we're immediately opening low. This is ideally what we see. So we're opening low, putting in a reversal. Again, why would I not want to be trading a London reversal here? Doesn't support expansion. I'd rather trade 6 a.m. candle, which is what I did. So boom. Again, same thing, right? Same thing back-to-back days. Forms all the time, right? So if I go to the 30-minute time frame, or even the 1 hour, we have a CSD. So now we're just trading continuation again. So it's the same thing, right? If a low of day has been put in prior to a driver, we haven't yet hit our objective, what should the driver do? It should expand, right? And when it's opening near these invalidation levels for continuation on the 1 hour and 30-minute time frame, this is when we can expect this low to hold. So my stop loss was on this low, but I entered on ES here. I'll show you guys. It's a bit choppy this day. I entered here, put my stop loss here, and yeah, that's what I took to get to this high and then a little bit beyond it. Now you can hold past these highs, essentially, specifically when all the assets, well really specifically when you're in a expansion phase in the higher time frame, because after a true reversal at these lows, 2-stage SMT, you expand away. I'm expecting expansion signatures all the way into the high. Right, so what is expansion signatures? Respecting order flow, right? Small retracements. So you see a small retracement here. I'm also expecting price to displace through highs. So that's why you can kind of hold past these highs, is because we're in expansion. You expect price to expand through these highs. But I want to be in before we even take out the high. That's the thing. I still want to be in before we take out the high. As you see here, every time we take out a high, we're expanding through it. That's good. That's what we want to see. So that's just a way. That's just one thing why you guys saw me hold it past this high. I just projected this. There's a small SMT here, right? I projected this here. Just anticipating that, some sort of expansion. I just don't know how far it's going to go, because it's not going to get here in the same day. It's just very unlikely to do it. So I just took it to here. But my stop loss was here, though, on the body of this here. So it's like 2.6R. But it went a lot further, but I did not. I just didn't know if it was going to go that far. So that was my trade, and I was fine with 2.6R. And yeah, all right, we see the same thing, right? Open low first over here. And then we see the GxT profile, right? To a London reversal, but we don't want to trade this London reversal unless it had a small wick. Then it could reverse into expansion. But if it's a large wick, it's just going to reverse. The next candle will expand, right? And yeah, that's a video for, or that's a topic for another video, is the 4-hour profiling. But yeah, that's this here. But I also want to show this next day. So if we want to see continuation this next day, what do we want the candle to do? Ideally open low first, right? So we see the first 4-hour candle of the day just does nothing, just consolidates. The second one just consolidates. So Asia just consolidates, that's fine. But we want it to do this. We want it to open low first, bro. Exactly what I want to see, but it opens high first. That's not great, right? Because now we're just trading away from failure swings, not ideal. So what does it do? Right, it's just like seek and destroy, essentially, right? I did trade this because seek and destroy is a continuous signature, right? Typically, we would never view this as a reversal because it never trades into anything. So anything that we're trading here is just counter trend, right? So there's a 2-stage SMT in here within the consolidation, which is what I traded on NQ to get to this high. That's it. But I can't trade to this high because it doesn't support an expansion day. So see why I'm adjusting my targets here? If it doesn't support expansion day, it's also just, these are just failure swings, right? Now you can only trade away from failure swings in higher time frame continuation, right? Because price doesn't need to manipulate necessarily inside of an expansion. That's another like misconception. Price doesn't need to manipulate, for example, like expansion, consolidation. It doesn't have to manipulate to expand again, right? But the way I actually trade away from consolidation is some sort of internal two-stage SMT within it to expand again, right? And then we can trade into consolidation high and then potentially reverse, you know what I'm saying? And that would be just like AMD reversal. But what was another thing I was going to say? Damn, I forgot. But ideally, we obviously want this, like ideally, because then we have like low resistance target. Another thing, what was I going to say, man? Fuck. Oh yeah, another way you can trade away from consolidation is if you fail to manipulate this high, for example, right? Because if you fail to manipulate this high, then we can, obviously trade through it. But if we do manipulate this high, then obviously you don't want to trade continuation, because then at the opposing side of that, have a bunch of failure swings. And I learned that from AM Trades, by the way. You should go watch that video on his YouTube channel. It's an old one, but it's a good one. So this is why I'm adjusting my target for a day like this. Is because the profile doesn't support it, and you're gonna see this is bullshits for this today, right? You're gonna even see today more of the same shit. But as you see, like, I'm not bearish here, so that's why I'm longing this day. It doesn't make sense to go bearish. Why would it be bearish? It didn't trade into anything higher. Didn't trade into this high, right? But you're gonna see this day does pretty much the same thing, I do believe. No, it doesn't. Probably not a good day, but I actually shorted this day. But we're not even going to go over that. It's just because YM had all these lows. So at 9:30 over here, I shorted that. I'll just show you really quick. I didn't even post it because it's an Apex trade. Who gives a shit about 1 hour? But you're going to see it here. You're going to see that the opening price is... Fucking hell, where is it, bro? It's around here. It's right here. It's really just seek and destroy, right? If I go over here... We don't take out any of these lows, by the way. Like, we don't take any of those lows. So it's just consolidation, really. I'm kind of using this to open high first, but mainly because we took out this external range high on the daily. In 8:30 did that. So this goes back to my driver video. So it's a little bit good to go over. The driver just expands this high. This fucking death candle, whatever the hell that is, dude. Expands this high. So if we manipulate prior to 9:30, we're also pairing this with a manipulation, right? Then what could 9:30 do? It could expand, right? So we know that NQ and ES are the stronger assets because YM did not trade into this high. But if I play price a little bit forward here, I'm waiting for 9:30 because it's just a little bit. Well, first off, I can't trade it. I can't position myself before it. There's just too choppy a PA. But you're gonna see a form of strength switching because this is the weakest asset, but we close a body above this 920 high. And over here, we do not. And over here, we do not. Right? So that's a form of strength switching. And we know all the assets are going to expand now in some capacity. But I know if YM has something to target, right, then I know that obviously these other assets can expand in some way. So we see that 930 is expanding away from this high, or the manipulation. So that's also validating narrative of some move into these relevant lows on YM. I did not take this here, this first initial CST. I actually just waited for a little bit extra confirmation, and it's just CST on 1 minute. That's literally my trade. Nothing insane. Like I said, it's on Apex. And I typically go for low RR on Apex just because the rules and shit. But you're going to see as soon as YM takes out this low, so about right here. Let it load. This is when I cut this trade. It was a little bit before 2R. Like I said, it was nothing. It was probably like right here. Yeah, it was around here. 1.5 hour, something like that. But yeah, nothing like too crazy. But anyways, that was a lot of wasted time. My bad. Let's move on to this day that I traded. So how can we already have a predetermined bullish bias on Monday? Well, what did the previous week do? It expanded, right? And Monday, we kind of gap lower and then trade into slow. So on a Monday, I'm not expecting a continuation. Like if we expanded already into an objective, what can we get? A new phase of price, right? When do we typically consolidate or retrace on early on in the week, right? Because even if we are going to continue lower, I want this candle, this weekly candle, to do what? Open high first, right? I want to open high first. So that's what we're seeing. Is can anticipate this, right? Because, like I said, there's no world where I'm gonna be bearish this day, because it's a Monday, right? After expansion. If the previous week expanded or Friday has this large range, I'm never gonna trade Monday continuation when it already took out the objective. So that's just a little bit of logic of why I was bullish today. But I still need a profile to agree with that. So that's where we have candle profiles. So here's the opening price. You see how it opens low first, right? That is supporting our narrative. So this large wick size, I typically just want to adjust my targets to the current day's high. So this is what I targeted. It went way past it. That's fine. But I want to show you guys this as well, because this is pretty important. So as you see, prior to the driver, we have this CST. We have this little manipulation. So a lot of people would assume this is the low of day, which I would too. It's a candidate for the low of day, right? But what do we need the driver to do? Expand away from that, right? That would validate this as being the low of the day. But also there's another filter in price, which is my GxT model, right? If the 4-hour candle is not supporting a move higher, then what does that mean? Probably not going to reverse. This is something we will not trade. I will not trade within this candle. I will wait for 10 a.m. I'll wait for 10 a.m. continuation. So either way, I'm not going to be positioned in this. But this still could be the low of day. I'm just not going to trade it. I'm going to trade the 10 a.m. continuation because the candle that we are currently within does not support expansion. But if we play 930, this is the next 930 candle. What do we want it to do? Is we need it to expand away from this low. Now, if this is not going to be the low of day, then what can this be? The reversal. This can be a reversal point because it's an hourly swing low. So we could pair a driver with manipulation. So as you see, here's 930. Right here. It trades into this low and it expands away. So that V-shaped signature is a reversal signature, right? And we have that candle 2 reversal. So now I'm just trading 10 a.m. continuation at this point because now it has closed. So I assume that this is 6 a.m. reversal, 10 a.m. continuation, pairing that with the driver. So now all I have to do is go to lower time frame and trade the fractal model with that logic. So as you see, here's a potential entry to get to this high. And you're going to see that YM is the leading asset here. And at one point, this was an SMT. This is where this really comes in handy in my SMT video because, like, how do you know if it's fake? Well, if the asset that sweeps doesn't reverse, what does that mean? That NQ and ES are just lagging behind, right? And when assets are synchronized like this, they're all expanding in the same direction. They're all reversing at the same area. This is where strength switching is not required as much. So like I said, I haven't taught you guys everything. We'll probably get to that because it's pretty necessary to understand. But if you study enough, like, you'll figure it out. Like I said, there's a time and place where it becomes necessary and where it's required less. There's times where two-stage SMT is required less, etc. But anyways, what we're seeing here is YM trades inside. So when you get this continuation signature, like this is a continuous signature, is when price expands to a high, doesn't manipulate it, maybe it tries to manipulate it, which creates opposing candles, but when that's closed through, clearly not a manipulation. This is a continuation signature. So if this asset is not going to reverse from this SMT, we know that this SMT that we're seeing here is just fake. So we can expect that we will also trade into these highs on this asset. So I didn't trade this here. I waited because this is too big of a stop loss. I waited for this here, and that's what I took when it got created. And I just took 2R this day. It went much further, but it's fine. I'm shooting a lot of days where the price goes a lot further than my reversal, or just my TP, but a lot of days sometimes it doesn't look like this. So I just like to take on reversal days, I like to TP a little bit more conservatively. But yeah, that's an example of trading a candle to reversal candle, not a reversal to expansion. So let's move on to the last example. So this is a weekly example. Now I traded every single day this week. Fuck it, we'll go over it, even though we're probably pretty late into this video. So this is a topic for another video, how to trade and anticipate a reversal versus an expansion candle. So how do we know this is a reversal candle on the weekly chart? Well, it can't be continuation because we're in consolidation, as you see. So it literally cannot be a continuation, right? So this candle has to be some sort of reversal candle. And ideally, what would I view as the open low or open high? If it opened high first into this high, within the consolidation, I would obviously do this open high. If it opens low, then ideally want to trade to this here. So if it opens low into here, then that kind of supports the model, right? Of going from range low to range high, because the candle that I'm trading within already supports a bullish candle. So see how this candle opens low first? What does that already support? A bullish candle, right? So when you manipulate this low, that's obviously fucking great, right? You have two things aligning. You have the model aligning itself, where you have manipulation of a range low and fair swing to the opposing side. That's already a good framework, but the candle that you're trading within supports it as well. Now we're going to talk about a little bit about why you can already anticipate us reversing, even though we don't have a reversal candle. So this happens when you manipulate a low or something, or anything. You trade into a key level like late in the candle. So you're going to see that we hit this candle, we hit this low, I mean, really late in the candle. So at 1300 in the day, we hit this low. Price doesn't have enough time, or the day doesn't have enough time to create a candle 2 and close all the way back within its open. It doesn't have enough time to do it. That doesn't mean that the candle didn't reverse, right? This is typically when you can expect either the next day to reverse off of this previous candle's low, or the next day to expand early on in the day. Because if you manipulate late in the day, then you expand early on the next day. So we already have an hourly CSD. We already have that V-shape signature. So now we can expect, the low of day potentially to form this gap. If we're not going to take out the previous low, then this gap has to hold, right? If Asia is going to be the low of day here, then this gap has to hold, right? And if this range is going to hold, then this gap has to hold. This is something we're going to go over. We're going to go over it in validations at some point. But this is what I traded. So we have a Asia and London expansion. So this is when kind of late London we just consolidate, because you're not going to expand forever, right? So let me form a relevant low. Right, space between these lows makes it relevant. So if you want to continue to the current week's high, that's another reason why you want it to open low first, because it leaves behind an unestablished high to target. But at this point, the daily candle is a bullish expansion candle, right? So we have that aligned. Now if I go to the 4 hour that I'm trading within, we also have a small wick as well, right? So that's also aligned. So when price manipulates this low, what does that create? A protected swing, right? Because this is a relevant swing. When manipulated, it creates a protected swing within the daily range. Right, so within the daily expansion, we have more of a close proximity level to trade away from, which is always ideal. So we manipulate this level prior to the driver, which is 9:30. So you see we manipulate at 8 o'clock. It's confirmed at, we manipulate at 7 o'clock. It's confirmed at 8 o'clock. And we have yet to expand it into our targets. So what should the driver do? It should expand, right? So you're seeing a lot of times these drivers are very consistent. So I would watch my video on drivers. So here you go. Here's 930. This is what I took on NQ. Here's your CSD. And yeah, the same things I talk about in my driver, you're going to see very consistent. So given that close, what can we expect the next day to do? Is expand ideally, right? But it gaps up like this. This is where I traded a reversal or a counter trend day, because this is definitely counter trend. You have a very one-sided expansion, or one-sided really just framework where we manipulate first. The weekly candle opens low first. So like, why am I actually fading this and trading back within the range? Well, if I go to YM, you're going to see that there's no wick on this daily candle at one point. So no wick, we open high first. Very, very large opposing run from the open. So what does that mean? That I just have to target back to this low, because it's not going to expand past the low, right? So that's why you see this candle just closes back within its range. As you see, small wick, a small body, and you're going to see that there's a two-stage SMT. So anytime I'm fading the higher time frame or anything like that, trading counter trend, there's going to be a two-stage SMT. So here's your first stage SMT. If I go to the lower time frame here, you create a lower high. So I've showed you guys this. This is a strength switch, two-stage SMT, where NQ takes out this high. But YM is also creating a lower low. It's just the weakest asset, so this is why I traded it. So you go into lower time frame. I didn't even wait for the CSD, because there's a reason for it. If I go to RTY, you're going to see that it's clearly weaker, right? And this over here is really a very, very nice two-stage SMT. So here's your, we actually take out this high, by the way, on RTY. We take out this high. Obviously on YM we do not, but later on, what are we creating? Look at the high of day here. It's 10 o'clock. The high of the day over here is 9 o'clock. So even over here you have a two-stage SMT. But you're going to see why I took YM. Because it's obviously weaker, because it created the higher time frame SMT. This asset is just creating, it's just a momentarily switching strength. But you're going to see right here is when I took this trade. So if I go to the 4-hour candle, I am not going to trade the 6 a.m. candle that created the manipulation, because it doesn't support expansion. I'm going to wait for the 10 o'clock candle, right? And this is a reversal into expansion candle because it has a small wick, right? Now, here, the previous 1-hour candle is a reversal candle, right? So 10 a.m., 1-hour reversal, 11 a.m. expansion. So 11 a.m. right here, was it opening near this key level here? But there's a reason why I take this trade just on this close, this 5 a.m. close, 5 minute close. Sorry, I can't talk. Before we even CST. So on the lower time frame, we know that this is the stronger asset, because we didn't close a body below this low, where RTY had done that a long time ago, right here. But you see how this candle right here is bullish. This one's bearish. That's a form of strength switching, right? Which validates price resyncing to the weaker asset, because it is the weaker asset, because it created the higher time frame lower low. Probably really confusing. No worries, we'll go over that in another video. But I took it straight up right here, and I did not put my stop loss here. I put out this breaker basically, and I'm targeting all the way to these lows. And this is why we wanted to open high first, because the open high in a fluid motion like this leaves session liquidity in the form of low resistance. So it's more likely to expand to the opening price, right? And that's what I took there. Kind of bullshits a little bit, but we ultimately get there, and that was my trade. Very good trade. And we'll go on to this next day as well. You're going to see the same thing. So you're seeing that all these days have the same type of profile. So now this is a relevant low in the market. in the form of a previous day's low. Because when I go to the 4-hour time frame or anything, there's nothing beyond this low. If I show you on like InQ or something, like this low that we're seeing, there's nothing beyond this low, so it's a relevant low, which is just the high of a gap. So how do I want this daily candle to form? I want to open low first into this level. So what does that support? A bullish day, right? So we're opening low first, manipulating this low. Remember what I told you guys about assets and when they break SMTs? So you're gonna see that this clearly was an SMT, this same low, but we failed to manipulate it over here. We failed to manipulate it over here as well. Right? Clearly failed to manipulate it. So does that mean that NQ will trade into this low? So when NQ trades into it, this is when the other assets will reverse. Right? Exactly, right? Over here. So that's just another tip for you guys, a little sauce there. But what we see prior to the driver, so we're opening low first. Again, back to my driver video because extremely consistent. What do we do prior to driver? We retrace. So go back in my slides and watch go back into my driver video and watch that, because I literally verbatim say, if we have an assumed low of day in, or a low of day already put in, and then within the continuation, we already retrace prior to the driver and hit a key level, like this fair value gap here, then what should 830 do, or any driver do? It should expand away from it. So when it expands away, what is that validating for us? It's validating narrative, right? So at this point, we're just in continuation. So if I go to ES here, kind of like the middleman asset, we're opening very close to this opposing candle, right, on the 30-minute. And so what should the driver do? Expand away from it. Because we haven't really hit anything. Look, we haven't hit any of these highs. At this point, if I play price, we're like basically at the protraction phase of the candle. Like we are just expanding, like creating the body of the candle. So if we really haven't even expanded, creating the body of the candle, then what can we do? What should the driver do? It should expand then. One set of expansion. So that's what we get. And because of that, what do you call it? Because of the this being just a retracement, right? Like we mentioned, this is the perfect area to continue. It can only continue because of the small wick, right? Which is kind of subjective, right? A small wick can be, you're gonna get a feel for it, because there's only one way to make it mechanical, and we're gonna go over the video on that later on. But you just kind of have to get a feel for it, really. I would just say this is why it's very important that what's actually really important is how it forms. It says opening low first. The low of days being formed in London session. So this is your profile. London reversal, confirmed by some CST, and then New York continuation. The drivers in New York confirm that as well because they're expanding away from low of day. So anyways, I'll probably wrap this up, guys. Hope you learned something. Let me know what you guys want to see for the next video in the comment section, and I will make it happen. Appreciate all the love. You guys are going crazy. Almost at 10K. And yeah, man, y'all stay safe. Peace.